Professor Parkins, a rational young scholar who mocks all talk of ghosts, finds an ancient bronze whistle half buried in the old Templar ruins on a lonely Suffolk coast. Engraved upon it, in Latin, are the words, "Who is this? Who is coming?" That night, alone in his room at the Globe Inn, he blows the whistle. A wind rises instantly, howling across the marshes. In his dreams he runs, terrified, along an empty beach, while a shapeless figure, far off at first, races after him with impossible speed, always gaining, never quite seen. He wakes to find both beds in his twin-bedded room disturbed, though he sleeps alone. The next day, the wind screams louder. Walkers on the shore report seeing a distant figure on the beach that seems to follow Parkins wherever he goes. That evening, in his room, the empty bed sheets again begin to move. They rise, twist, and take on a horrible, faceless human shape that lurches blindly toward him. Parkins screams. The thing from the whistle has come, answering the call he should never have made. Only the terrified intervention of the colonel in the next room saves him. They burn the whistle at dawn, but Parkins is never quite the same. He no longer laughs at old suspicions, and he will not sleep again in a room with an empty bed beside his own. For some calls once sounded cannot be unsounded, and something is still listening on that cold shore, waiting for the next whistle. I was once a gentle man, fond of animals, especially my black cat Pluto, a large, intelligent creature who followed me everywhere. My wife and I shared many pets, but Pluto was my favorite. Yet as years passed, alcohol poisoned my soul. I grew moody, irritable, and violent. One night, in a drunken rage, I seized Pluto, and when he bit me out of fear, I cut out one of his eyes with a knife. I wept in shame afterwards, but the guilt only drove me deeper to drink. The cat healed, but now fled from me in terror. That fear enraged me more. One morning, cold-blooded, I slipped a noose around Pluto's neck and hanged him from a tree in the garden. That same night, my house burned to the ground, everything lost. On the one remaining wall, burned into the plaster, was a giant image of a cat with a rope around its neck. Soon after, I found another black cat in a tavern, almost identical to Pluto, but with a white patch on its chest. I took it home. It adored me, but I began to hate it. The white patch slowly changed shape until I saw with horror that it resembled a gallows. My hatred turned to dread, then fury. One day, when my wife and I went down to the cellar of our new crumbling house, the cat followed and tripped me on the stairs. Enraged, I raised the axe to kill it. My wife caught my arm to stop me. In blind madness, I buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead, without a sound. I walled up her body in the cellar, behind the fresh plaster, certain no one would find her. The cat had vanished. Good riddance, I thought. For 4 days, police came and went, finding nothing. And on the 4th day, they searched the cellar thoroughly. As they were about to leave, I tapped the wall proudly with my cane, boasting how solidly the house was built. From inside the wall came a sound. First, a low wailing, then a long, loud, inhuman shriek that froze my blood. The police tore down the plaster. There sat the black cat, alive, howling, atop the rotting head of my murdered wife, its red mouth wide open. I had walled the monster up with its victim. And so tomorrow, I die on the gallows, destroyed by the spirit of perverseness, that dark impulse in a man to do wrong, simply because it is wrong. Outside a lonely house in England on a dark and stormy night, Mr. and Mrs. White and their grown son Herbert welcome an old friend, Sergeant Major Morris. He tosses a mummified monkey's paw into the fire, warning that an old fakir cursed it to show that fate rules people's lives. It grants them 3 wishes, but at a terrible price. 2 men before them wished and died. Mr. White rescues the paw. Morris leaves, refusing to stay more. For a bit of fun, Herbert tells his father to wish for £200 to clear the mortgage. With a shrug, Mr. White makes the wish. Nothing happens. They laugh it off, and they go to bed. The next morning, Herbert heads to work at the machinery factory. Later that afternoon, a man in black arrives to the house. In a hushed voice, he explains there's been a terrible accident. Herbert was caught in the machinery and killed instantly. The company denies responsibility, but as compensation, they're sending exactly £200. The mother screams through the night. A week later, driven by mad grief, she forces her broken husband to fetch the paw. "Wish him back," she shrieks. Trembling, Mr. White wishes for his son alive again. Silence. Wind howls. Then slow, heavy knocking begins at the front door. Knock, knock, knock. It grows louder, desperate. His wife claws at the bolts, sobbing with joy. Horrified, Mr. White realizes what they've brought back. With his 3rd and final wish, he begs the thing outside to be gone. The door swings open. The street is empty. Only the cold night moves. When a medical student, Richard Bracumont, moved into room number 7 of the dingy Hotel Stevens in Paris, 3 men had already hanged themselves from the window crossbar on 3 successive Fridays. The first, a Swiss salesman. The second, a Russian painter. The third, a police sergeant sent to guard the room. Each time, witnesses swore they saw it. A fat black spider, 8 legs splayed like a noose, crawling from the corpse's gaping mouth as the body swung limp. Bracumont scoffed at superstitions. "Coincidence," he muttered, unpacking his books. But on the 4th Friday, as twilight bled through the grimy pane, he spotted her across the narrow courtyard. Clarimonde, in the shadowed window opposite. Pale as porcelain, with eyes like polished obsidian, she beckoned with a finger that curled like a hook. Their game began innocently. A wave, a smile, a tilt of a head. By midnight, she was mimicking his every gesture, her silhouette twisting in eerie echo, arms rising like threads, body arcing in silent spins. He laughed at first, thrilled by the mirror of her grace. But the nights blurred. Her dances grew frantic, hypnotic, fingers weaving invisible webs, lips parting in a hiss that carried no sound. Spiders hatched in his dreams, skittering across his skin, whispering of silk and surrender. He couldn't look away. On the 7th day, as the clock struck 5, he felt the pull, an unseen cord tightening around his throat, drawing him to the window. They found him at dawn, swaying from the crossbar, face serene as a lover's, and from his slack jaws tumbled the spider, plump, glistening, vanishing into the cracks like a secret finally set free. Some say Clarimonde still watches from that empty room, waiting for the next fool to play. But listen close on Fridays, and you might hear the faint click of legs, spinning a noose just for you. It's the 14th of August. The heat is monstrous, suffocating, like the city itself is holding its breath. I am James Clarence Withencroft, artist. This morning, my hand moved without me. When I looked, I had drawn a man in the dock. Brutal jaw, small, cruel eyes, hands clenched, waiting for the rope. In a dreamlike haze, I wrote beneath it, "Sentence of death pronounced this 14th day of August," then signed my name. Hours later, half dead from the heat, I stepped into a stonemason's yard. The man at the bench turned. It was the face from my sketch. Exact. Impossible. He stared at the drawing until the paper trembled in my hands. Then, without a word, he opened his ledger and slid it towards me. One line, written this morning. Headstone for James Clarence Withencroft. Date of death, 14th August. The sun is almost gone. The yard is locked. It's 3 minutes to 7. Atkinson is standing over me now, testing the edge of a cold, thin chisel against the dying light. He smiles, small, polite, almost gentle, and then says, "Time to make the drawing true." I can feel the heat of the day turning ice cold inside my chest. Whatever happens next has already happened. The sentence was never his. It was mine, and the chisel is already coming down. If you've enjoyed these short stories, I encourage you to subscribe for more just like this, twice a week. For now, sleep well if you can.